coaxed her to believe that I was just gone wild. I just not paying attention to our vows, our marriage. So I had her believing that I was being unfaithful. But it didn't go that way only. I thought she might be too. And so I came home. I didn't want her to tell me yes or no. I didn't want to hear the bad news. She didn't want to hear the bad news, whatever it was. We didn't want to know. And so years later, Dustin, I was out praying one day about everything, and I considered it, and I said, Lord, do you think she's been unfaithful to me? Has she been unfaithful to me? He said to me in my heart, he said, would it matter? He said, do you love her now? I said, yeah, I love her now. He said, would it matter? And in that moment of intimacy with the Lord, I said, no, sir. No, sir, I don't care what she's done. I love her. Boy, that's good love right there. That's what old Hosea said, that I don't care what she's done. Lori came to me one day, and at first trying to get right. She's coming back to church and doing, you can't fix what you broke. It's just got to be left up to God. He can fix, but not you. She started telling me the things she did while she was away from God. I said, I don't want to hear it. She said, Daddy, I want you to know. I said, I don't want to hear it. Why don't you want to hear it? I don't care. I don't care what you've done. All I do care is that you've come home. Pretty good, huh? That's the kind of love that Hosea got here. This horrible scenario of him marrying a girl that God knew was going to be unfaithful and wicked. Now he said, go get her son, and he went and got her. And the money he paid for her was no small amount of money. I have it listed here somewhere, but it took a pretty good amount of money, 15 pieces of silver and so forth, and the almers of barley. So he went after her, and then verse 3 said, and I said unto her, thou shalt abide for me many days. When God gives you grace, you know what that lesson is? There's always more said than read. Don't ever think that you've read it all until you consider why it was written. And here's listen to what he says right here. Or the lesson from that verse 3 is, though I give you grace, it doesn't mean that I've dropped the whole standard. I want you living my way. You'll have to live my way. So he takes her legally, he puts her through the purification process so that she can become his wife as she should be. And thou shalt not play the harlot, thou shalt not be for another man, so will I also be for thee. So now you take the first 3 chapters, and we call them a biography. He tells his story. It's really the background. It's the setting for the rest of this Sunday school lesson or this book. I'm sorry, I have to drink. I'm so dry. So then I have some tremendous lessons here. Let's see what they did. I'm going to use this little lesson here instead of read, but I do want to read you one of my notes. Listen to this. And I don't have it written down where I got this, but typed up. The heart of the prophet's accusation is summed up in the assertion that you forgot me, says the Lord, verse 13. When one considers the manner in which modern man glibly takes credit for the material abundance into which most people in this nation have entered, one is inclined to agree with the observation that there is no distress or need in the people. They have everything they need. That's right, isn't it? Just as up to date as it can be right now. They have everything they need. Only God is in need. Is that disgraceful? Only God is in need. And the renewal of the church depends upon the recognition that the living God is the one that is in need. God's pain screams out in the heart of his word, me you have forgotten. What about that, men? Ladies? I mean, is this not a major truth in our day? A wife can say to her husband, "You've forgotten me." I mean, not with her mouth, but it's like she's a servant. Just do your job and be quiet. Or a man. My wife really shocked me one day. She told one of the girls, or maybe more than one, she said, "Your daddy's worked all day long and put food on the table and keep the rent, the bills all paid. The least you can do is wash the dishes and give him a good meal when he comes home, make him feel good." I thought, my goodness, that is how it is. That is what a helpmeet is, isn't it? It's kind of a funny little cliche, but she's a guy wire, really. God's pain says, he said, "Me you've forgotten. You do not know that it is I who have given you what you have." Thought about that. Have you ever thought about it? It said every good gift, Kristen, here it is. We just don't realize it's every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Every word in a Bible. We don't have another book. I've got thousands of dollars worth of books, but only one book is right every time. It's this book. Every time. Every little word, Larry, every word. You cannot say, "Oh, it don't count here." It does count. Somebody was saying the other day, the hospice nurse come to see me. She said, "Do you believe the Old Testament too?" I said, "Where do you think the New Testament came from?" It had to come out of the Old Testament. There wasn't nowhere else to come from. It's true. So he said, "You don't know it's me that gave you that bass boat in the backyard. I didn't want you to use it on Sunday to make a disgrace in your life. It was me that gave you those nice things in your house." My wife is fixing our house up. I am so tired, y'all, you don't know. She's fixing our house up, painted the ceiling. Aaron's helped her, just here, there, and doing beautiful rooms. I'm so thankful all God's people did that for us. But you know who really did that for us? He did that for us. Every good gift. My friend came the other day to eat with us up around Salisbury, Cumberland, North Carolina. We sat down in a Waffle House to eat together, and he handed me a knife. Where do you think it came from, really? Where? It came from God. Every good gift, every good gift. You just think about it this morning. My wife brought me a tie. I don't usually wear it because I wear it when wide ties are in. Leave it hanging when the narrow ties are in. I wear these old suits so much that it's one thing got holes in them. But anyway, she brought it and she said, I said, "Yeah, I'll wear it." I didn't feel like putting it on. I don't feel like nothing. I feel terrible today. But anyway, I was reading on it to see if it was silk or not. Nope, not silk. Then it says, extra long. I've lost 2 or 3 inches with these knees and all this mess. So I said, "Lord, please help me tie this right. I don't feel like tying it 3 or 4 times." And I tied that stupid tie, and it's perfect. Who you think done that? I'm a wise dresser. Shucks, was God that did that. That old tie come out perfect. Look at there. Hangs right where it's supposed to hang. Every good gift. Tyrone came and brought my stool. Where do you think that came from? Every good gift and every perfect gift is His love with you expressed. Hallelujah. Yeah. So it's me, he said, perhaps when the last vestige of our abundance has been exhausted and our resources depleted and our world status obliterated, perhaps then a people once intensive to the source or insensitive to the source of ultimate meaning will come to experience the reality of God in the privation and despair of their disaster. Those who will not and who cannot discern the reality of God's gracious concern in their bounty may someday recognize that once hidden form in the presence of their grief. We ought to wake up today. We have a chance. I've thought about this. We really do have a chance to build one church that puts God first. It's just about all amusement park today. Anything to get the crowd. And for heaven's sake, don't put a standard on it. Pull it down real low so anybody can get in it. And God never lowered it or raised it so high that anybody can't get in, but they have to get in His way. We can't just figure it out ourselves. It's going to have to be His way. So what a great statement there about our country. Well, the first thing here, these notes brought up is open idolatry on a wide scale. And without reading all of that, that's dealt with in chapter 2, verse 5. And I'm not going to read all these texts and everything, but what would be the reaction of a husband whose wife brazenly dressed to please other men and flirted with them? I can still remember this. You know, I'm naive about some of that. So one day back in Elizabethtown, years and years ago, the bank put a bank outlet up in front of where the old Kroger used to be in that strip mall out next to the highway. And so I went through the bank, and the lady looked out the window and she said, "You look mighty spiffy today." Well, I didn't know what that meant. I don't know if I still know what it means. So I told my wife, and she said, "She's flirting with you." I bet she was. What would you do if you found your wife? I know several men, I don't mean a handful, but pretty near, who had to watch their wife play bad on them right in front of them. I told that story, that boy was Pentecostal. He taught me how to drive rivets. He was a great friend of mine. We didn't believe alike. He's just like clean as a hound's tooth. He's a good man. He worked, buddy. He didn't bum his life off of L&N Railroad. He was a worker. He'd drive them rivets. We drove 180 5/8 rivets down the side of each of a car. He drove his side, I drove mine. I believe it's 180. And we drove them doors and things, those hinges on them doors there. Come out of 4th Street, Louisville, and they'd made a mall out of it. And they crossed that highway to go to the parking lot on the east side of Louisville. And she ran into her lover. And she put her arms around him, and they backed up in the rotating door of that big bank, and him standing there watching his own wife and another man. Oh, my. Tell me about pain. Anybody know anything about pain? If it hurt you, what do you think it's doing to God in our lives that are sitting right in here now? Ty, we can't treat this lightly. I get a magazine from AMAC, Association Mature Citizens or something. I don't know. It's a conservative group of older people like AARP is. But it's dead set on conservative values. You ought to read that if you could get that magazine and read how communism undermined Russia, China, England to become socialism. And if we lose this election, it's over. You know that. You probably don't believe it is. But, buddy, if it ain't over, I'll eat your hat, and I'll go buy you a hat if you don't have one. We cannot let this go. You better. I'm dying. What's it matter to me? They can't hurt me. But they can hurt you, buddy. They can hurt you with your wife, your children. Totsy's not as sick as I am. I know sometimes you think she may be, but what if she lives 20 more years, Leslie? What's she going to have to look at? It's tyranny. It's awful. What you don't know is awful. And don't you, for God's sake, don't you be part of it. And how are you going to express that? Right here in our fellowship with this bunch of believers. And then second thing, vanity and superficiality. Isaiah had spoken scornfully about vain and superficial living. Few things can be more repulsive and unacceptable to God than a shallow, insincere, hypocritical spirit. That's in chapter 2, verse 13. You can be sure, buddy, that God is not happy with his lukewarm life. Here's something I noticed. David Young was here the other day. I heard him preach a message. The message before him, the man had got up and said something about calling on God and him calling you to come on to him. And so David got up and he said, I don't want to find fault with this message. But he said, when I want to talk to Daddy, I just cross the road and open the door. And Mom will say, who is it? And he'll say, it's me, Mom. Don't even say David. He said, it's me, Mom. She'll say, come on in, son. Ronnie, David's here. And then she'll go right in and get out something to eat. This intimacy with the Father. You know, we could do that. We can quit this playing around. Now that family, whatever you think of Ron Young and his boys, I think they're all in. I preach for one of them. I preach for the other one. There's another one I haven't preached for. And they live around the book. They live around God. It's all about God. Their constant conversation is spiritual. And you know what's happened? He's kept his kids. I failed right there, Larry. I failed right there. We should have lived it, ate it, and drank it. We just kind of let it slip. Can't do nothing about it. Once it's gone, Ty, it's just out. But you can, at least, for heaven's sake, sit behind a teacher's desk somewhere and say, I'm an old man and I've tasted the bad side and I don't want you to taste it. You know, I'm so tired I don't feel like going traveling. But I'm pretty sure the reason I'm still alive is because of what I believe, and I get to preach it. A man sent me a text yesterday. He said, when this COVID thing settles down a little bit, I want you to come preach a revival for me. You know what that means? He thinks I can preach 4 or 5 days at a meeting. I don't even know if I can preach one day at a meeting. But if God let me go, I will. This superfluity, this cheap commitment. You know, these kids are getting married and divorced almost the same day they get married. What do they think about marriage? What happened to that? Huh? What's the whole point of getting married if you're going to live like that? It's a waste. So listen, you can't make me and I can't make you, but good night. If you just turn them switches, buddy, and start turning on the heat and saying, we're going to make this real in our family. This is going to be real. We're going to make this real in our lives. Take God at his word. He didn't just say stuff to give you the choice whether you want to or not. You do have a choice, but you will be sorry you make the wrong choice. And then here, the third thing this man noticed, a total lack of humanitarian impulse. Although each of the 4 great prophets of the 8th century brings his own particular emphasis, all of them agree as to the high ethical requirements of the Lord. Isn't that right? You know, we were talking yesterday, we had a bit of discussion. We was riding, I think. Was Lori riding? We were all riding about somebody. You give a message by your clothes. It was Adriana, I think. At our house, we got talking, discussing what kind of message your clothes give. Isn't that something? You think, well, my wife, I never thought about this, Tim. I never thought about it. My wife helped me really good right here. She said, when you go downtown and you look sloppy, That's not a reflection on you, it's a reflection on me. Buddy, I was working for Kennard. Hard fellow to work for. Yeah. So we went to Sears and Roebuck to get something. And they had that big escalator. And we come out, we was upstairs, whatever he got. We come out there and got on that escalator, and right in front of that escalator is a great big mirror so you can see what you look like. I wanted to get down under the escalator. Man, I'm telling you, my breeches was hanging on me. My shirt was half out. I look like a bum that's come off the street and probably get run off if they see me. Oh, Lord, I said, that's my last route. But he come down that escalator looking like a street bum. Oh, my. You know, you do give a message. I told it a lot. The guy up there at Recycle has that little store across the old Hess place there, sells vegetables and things. I remember when he put that black hat in and started walking, he looked like he needed that rifle that rifleman had. He's giving his message. Fourth thing is violence. Well, let me tell you that verses on that one. That's chapter 4, verse 1 on that last one there. Then the fourth one, he gives us violence, lynchings, riots, and moral depravity. Am I not reading the history of our country while we're going right down through here? It is. Broken fellowship with God leads to hatred among men. Cain killed his brother. Noah's world was filled with violence. Romans 3:15 said their feet are swift to shed blood. The atheism of France expressed itself in terrible scenes of violence during the Revolution. Listen, I read in AMAC, I believe that little article in AMAC said the Chinese have killed millions and they're burning books. And I believe it was Russia. They said they outlawed all books of history so you don't know where you came from. Tearing down the statues so you don't know where you came from. Those icons that we once revered, tore them down, taken them down. Can I stop that, Tyrone? I don't know. I'm nobody. Are you anybody? Who are you? We needed Donald Trump. But that's not to say that God is not really the author of, but we need somebody who gives God at least the idea that we're trying. He can look at us. I'm nobody, you're nobody. We're just nobodies over here on the side of the road. We're not famous people. But if he sees me and you in a concerted effort to pull it back on track. You know, I told our church when we closed the door, where are you going? Didn't I, Jay? Didn't I say that? Where are you going? Tell me where you're going. Oh, I know a good church to go to. Really, why don't you get your little magnifying glass and look and see? Huh? You can't, churches can be led to the right way. We just got to be the people that's going to follow the guy that's telling us. I tell you this much, I do know this, Pete. If you would take it as serious as I do, there ain't no telling what God would do right here on this little piece of dirt. Yeah, but I take it serious. I mean, you ask that lady right there. There's no playground in me, buddy. My greatest experience is that I have come to know Jesus Christ. Not just in salvation, but I mean he is my best friend. Intimately my best friend. Well, so violence comes in, which is what's happened. We do away with police? What kind of foolishness is this? Anyway, fifth thing, that's in chapter 4, verse 2. Then the fifth thing is corrupt religious leadership. Do I need to comment on that? Swaggart committed adultery and they got him forgiven. It just comes out every day. Another one's going to fail, another one down the road, another one down the road, another one down the road. And you just dare take a stand. I mean, you state your stand, buddy. Bless God, right here's where I stand. And, buddy, all them guys that you used to think would throw a rock at somebody just like you are throwing the rocks at you now. You old stiff-hearted, you're not forgiving. If I'm not, I'm just telling you, God's not going to lose. He's not going to lose his standards to keep you in here. He won't change for you. I don't need to comment on it, but that's chapter 4, verses 6 through 9, and there's other verses. Sixth thing, political leadership. In every realm of life, the quality of leadership is vital. I remember one time Johnny said, well, it's not the king, it's the preachers. And I remember Johnny Jones said, he said, I'm going to tell you what, you ain't going to do much if you can't get that king helping you. And you can name the good kings. I thought I need to make a list of the kings real good and make them where you could put it in your Bible. But when Solomon died, Solomon bit the dirt real bad. Rehoboam, Jeroboam, then Rehoboam. Then you come down to there. Jehoshaphat was a decent guy, and Josiah, and Joash, and Hezekiah. Uzziah was good till he messed around and went in that temple. So you have kings, pretty good kings, several times. And but the people wouldn't follow. In the days of Josiah, that was Jeremiah's king. He was a wonderful guy, but he couldn't get his nation back. It may be that way with Donald Trump. Maybe we can't get our nation back. But I tell you what he did. If I know anything, Ezra 9:8 is right on the money. He gave us a little space of grace. That's what I believe. And I tell you, we can't go yonder, somewhere down the road, but we can do it here. I mean, Randy is not going to pull it out. We have to pull it out with him. You know that? We have to pull it out with him. We have to get with him. Team up. One of the things I noticed about churches, they get a preacher and they keep him a while till they have confidence in him. And that man is overcoming an obstacle that just hardly ever is overcome. And that is to begin to have confidence in your man. Yeah. Brother Treadway left there from Abington, went to way up in Michigan somewhere. And I don't know any of the circumstances to him, nobody. I don't know any of them. But it looked like to me that Brian Treadway had caught the confidence of those people. And now they have to start all over again. That happened in other places, same thing. And there are no short ministries. You get used to a man, and then you begin to see where he's at and try to understand why he does what he does and where he's heading. And you begin to build confidence, and that thing just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And so you got to get involved. I can tell you this, with one ray of hope, and you kill that ray of hope, you've killed a whole lot more than a ray of hope for one person. So that's in chapter 4, verse 18. The seventh thing, drunkenness and debauchery. Hosea does not enter into an extended discussion of the problem of, drinks and so forth. He does allude to it several times. Noah's day, to our own, it has contributed largely to the decline and decay of the nation world. Alcohol, or now it's drugs. You know that. And that's in chapter 3, verse 1. And eighth thing, compromise and worldliness. There's a bunch more stuff. Whole book presents a picture of materialism, sensualism, and abandon to the pursuit of illicit. Complete abandon to the pursuit of illicit and illegitimate enjoyments. Israel's become a nation of people who were lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. Chapter 7, verse 8. Number 9, deception, lies, and hypocrisy. You know, the Muslims, one of their great failings is the statement, the end justifies the means. Situation ethics means that the standard of morality or ethics is only determined by the circumstances that you're facing. So their illustration in psychology in the big college was, to me, you have a little boat a boat that, like on the Titanic, and everybody gets in the little boat. The little boat is so full, it's just at the point of sinking, full of water. And so if you don't throw somebody over, then everybody's going to drown. So then it becomes ethical and moral to cast somebody out of the boat. So then you begin to see which one of us is expendable. Which one should we kill first? Situation ethics. You know what it says? Thou shalt not kill. That's what the book says. It didn't give you any room to consider whether he was usable or not usable. It only gave you the room to obey. Right? Situation ethics is the devil's way of getting you off of God's track. He said, this won't kill you, Eve, honey. It'll make you wise, and you'll know the difference between good and evil. It'll make you wise. Well, you know, it's got to be ethical to do that. Be as gods. He didn't tell the whole story. This is not, you cannot have a double standard. You cannot have a double standard. Well, in this case, it's okay. There's no such thing. If God said no, then it's no. And if God said yes, then it's yes. It won't ever be otherwise. His truth are forever, eternal truth. Amen. All right, so we got, that's chapter 10, verse 4. I'm going to give you these, there's just a few of them here. Dishonesty and cruelty. I started to say about the Muslims. They say the end justifies the means. If we need to get rid of this guy, let's just kill him because it'll be okay. Or they'll lie. That's what they do in Papua New Guinea. They'll win your favor. Boy, and you'll think, I got a real friend. While you're enjoying the friendship, he puts a knife under the fifth rib. That's the story of Peace Child. That's what the story was. He climbed out of that tree and went to be with his friend. They got in that big compound, and all the men were together. And he looked at the guy was the man that made friends with him. He looked at him, and he got that sneery grin on their face, and they killed him. They lied and played an evil game. That's the Muslims. They have no ethic standard about lying. They'll lie to you, look you right in the face. And that's okay with them and their religion, but it's not okay in our religion. False witness, dishonesty, and cruelty. That is in chapter 12, verses 7 and 8. Then in the 11th place, inexcusable self-righteousness and pride. I remember this one time. I went to a man in our town and owned a trailer sales, and it's a lot of rental property. And I said, Victor, why don't you get saved? Your mother was a good old Methodist. He said, Brother Wayne, he said, I'm as good as the deacons in the big church downtown. Well, I knew he was right. One of them deacons kept a woman down the road in another town. He kept a woman. He was wicked. He was rich, though. That makes a difference. It should never make a difference. So one day, by the grace of God, I got to lead Vic to be saved. I said, if you're going to hell, I wouldn't let a deacon, a backslidder, lost deacon, send me to hell. I'd go on my own. And that got him. Sooner or later, he caved in, got saved. Well, it's time to quit, isn't it? Is that right, Ty? He's my time man there. 7 minutes.